So I recently started law school. I got accepted to the University of Ottawa, and with big dreams and a lot of hesitation, I walked through the front doors of Ottawa Law, ready to tackle whatever challenge was in front of me next. Of course, I was the only student with a visible disability, certainly the only student with a service dog, so I drew a lot of attention to myself. But I also really struggled to find my way. And one of the things that I started to really struggle with was the inaccessibility and the barriers that I was facing as a student with a visual impairment in a law school. On our first day, we had orientation, and we all sat in a big room much like this, and we had these lawyers and fancy people who had done fancy things with their lives come up and talk to us about sort of what a lawyer is supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, what you're supposed to do. And one of the things that they said to us was that we should try and use social media. Like the world is happening online. Anyone who was watching the election this week knows the world is happening online. And so that's what we're encouraged to do. There's even a thing called legal Twitter, which is like a whole subcategory of Twitter. And as I sat in this room with my fellow future law students, they went through Twitter, and they went through Instagram, and they went through Facebook. And it became very clear that the people that I was supposed to be gathering knowledge and inspiration and wisdom from were creating content that was completely inaccessible to me. I couldn't access it in any way, shape, or form. And so as my classmates sat around and talked about how they were going to go home and follow this professor or look up that quote or do this thing, I felt really excluded. And those are the moments where I feel disabled. Not because I'm blind, not because I use a guide dog, but because the world around me isn't built for people like me. I'm Michelle. I work for a company called Blind Girl Inc., and I have my lovely Licio here with me, who's a canine vision dog guide from the Lions Foundation of Canada. Like I mentioned, I'm a law student aspiring to practice in the field of disability and human rights law. I'm not sure I'm going to make it, but I'm giving it my best go. And so, thank you. As I left that presentation, I started to think to myself, this is just another example of sort of the barriers that I face on a daily basis. It's just maybe never been sort of thrown in my face in that way. And so I started to think about this. I knew I was coming here to talk, and I thought that this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk about inclusion and what that means for law students like me. I went home and I looked at my own Instagram, which I'm on. I'm not really sure why. There's nothing of any content on it. But I looked at my own Instagram and realized that I can't access half of it or 3/4 of it. I looked at my own Facebook and realized that of my friends who are even blind and visually impaired, I'm one of the only ones who put image descriptions on the photos that they share. I looked on Twitter and found a very similar thing. And these are some of the examples that I came across. So, for example, here's lawyers have a bit of a dark sense of humor. And so on the screen is a meme that says, "Just settled a divorce over visitation of a parrot. Neither may teach it negative phrases about the other. I went to law school for this." And as this circulated around my law school, everyone was laughing about it. One of the other ones, I also like to sometimes, I have a bit of a dark sense of humor, so one of the other things I follow is memes to discuss in therapy. And this one was, "In my experience, adulthood is mostly piling stuff up on surfaces and then eventually having to clean it off those surfaces. I just recently moved into my own apartment. I no longer share with a roommate. And this is very accurate for the way my life operates right now." The problem with these two images on the screen is that there's absolutely no image description, there's no alt text, and so as a screen reader user, when I log into these Facebook groups, all I get is image may contain text. That's what my screen reader reads to me. It tells me that it doesn't tell me that there's a picture, it doesn't tell me what the joke is, nothing. It just tells me image may contain text. And so like I was saying before, that's where I start to feel disabled. I start to feel like I don't belong in this world. That content isn't made for me. Now here's what happens when I log into some of the other groups that I really like to listen to. These are also Instagram photos. So these are Instagram photos that I pulled together to also demonstrate how Instagram is really inaccessible. You may recognize the black poodle in the one photo. It's the back of this one's head as he was out canvassing for money. And then just a cute puppy picture, because who doesn't love cute puppies? But I, of course, didn't know that it was a cute puppy picture until someone told me. So these are a couple of the groups that I like to follow. One of them is called Memes for Blind Folks. And one of them on the screen says, "I'm not self-medicating with chocolate. The lady at the shop wrote me a prescription, ... Well, she said it's a receipt, whatever." These are the groups that I have started to follow. And all of a sudden, it was like this light came on, and I realized that there's this whole world on social media that I actually didn't even really know existed, but there's some really funny people on social media that make some really creative stuff. And I am finally starting to be able to participate in it because able-bodied folks are taking the time to put image descriptions and alt text on their images. I'll leave with this photo. So this is one of my friends. They're an amazing person, and they have taken up the challenge of providing image descriptions in their Instagram photos. And this is a really simple way that now I get to enjoy their Instagram. And then a picture of me outside a float spa. If none of you have floated, I highly recommend it. But I also provide image descriptions. And so it's just two examples of really simple ways for you folks to walk away and think about how you're accessing your social media platforms, how you're providing information and entertainment and stories so that they can be accessible to all folks. Thanks.